I just speak my peace, keep my peace.
What's good, everybody? Welcome to episode 107 of the Speak My Peace podcast. As always, I'm your gracious host, Greg Lacey. Like we always do about this time, I hope this episode reaches you all in good health and that you all taking care of yourselves. We got another great one underway today. I do have a special guest with me. Today, I have Kassandra. If you follow me on social media, you know that I was a guest on her podcast on the Black Creative Handbook this past week. So I'm definitely glad that I was able to return the favor and have her as a guest on my podcast. We are in for a great episode. I don't, as you all remember from the last episode, I don't like to introduce people because I don't like to butcher anything. And I feel like that's also a good way to put people on spot because we don't give ourselves our flowers enough. So I'm going to allow Kassandra to introduce herself to you all.
Oh, the pressure. Oh, I'm messing. So my name is Kassandra Lauren Gooden. I am a multidisciplinary artist, but I'm more known as a jeweler. That is my main medium. So I do different things. So for instance, I'm a filmmaker as well. So in London next month, one of my films has been accepted for the London Independent Film Festival. I do art exhibitions. I have one next month. But my main bread and butter is making fine jewelry. So if it's out of precious metals, diamonds, gold, platinum, whatever, so long as it's fine, I can make it. So that's my main thing, really.
Well-rounded. Before we do get into this, I do want to ask, what is KLG? Meaning, like, exactly what is the brand and what does it mean to you?
Oh gosh, I feel like I should look at my business plan. So basically, yeah, the lazy version of me, because I think about this all the time, and it's thank you for sharing this. It's a good shout because I'm really trying to get who is Kassandra Lauren Gordon, meaning KLG, who is Kassandra the person as a personal brand, and who is Kassandra Lauren Gordon the jewelry brand. And if you talk about the jewelry brand, it's really is a brand for progressive thinking people who like to express their individuality and who loves conceptual design, jewelry with meaning. It's not just a pretty piece of jewelry, it has meaning towards it. And yeah, that's how I see people who would buy my things or see it as a brand. In my jewelry or my art, I look at relationships, heritage, legacies, and conversations. So you see that in my work as a jeweler.
Pretty good. I did want to start the episode off with an icebreaker, but I do want to say, first of all, congrats on your film being accepted into the Independent Film Festival. I know that was probably like something that you had to go through a long process and first one getting it finished, but also getting it accepted. So I know you have a big sigh of relief going into
that. you know, everyone's like Netflix and chill, but it's not when you're doing a film, or it's not. You're not chilling. It's hard work. Yeah. It's a lot of work. So I appreciate filmmakers in these streets. So the film is called Gemstones. A nod that I'm a jeweler, but it's called Gemstones. Lessons in Unconditional Love. So I interviewed or talked to mom and daughter pairs in London, looking at Black British womanhood, because I feel that sometimes the word Black is a bit of a contested thing, and sometimes, no offense to our American cousins and Americans, love you all, but sometimes when people think the word Black, they just think about African American culture, which I appreciate and I subscribe to, but there is a difference growing up in the UK. Being a Black person or a brown person, and there are a lot of similarities, yes, in America, but there's some nuances which are a bit different in the UK or in Britain. And even just like this week, I don't know if it's reached over to your American media world, but there was a Black girl, 15 years old, in an area which is close to mine, where she was strip searched by the police, and she was on her period.
Yeah,
they literally said that she smelled of weed. You heard of it? Allegedly,
yep.
she smelled of. She had weed on her. There was no weed. There was nothing, and traumatized this Black girl through COVID times. Okay, so they always see us less human. I don't want to be here. I come here as a victim, but that's just evidence where they see girls, they don't see us as, you know, human beings. And the documentary is really showing the multifacetedness of Black women in the UK and looking at their womanhood and just humanize, like, be warm, because sometimes Black families, people see, oh, the single mother, the delinquents, the Jezebels, sexualized, the aggressive, and we're just human like everyone else. We have feelings like everyone else. So that is what the documentary just, you know, and I'm not going to wait for a Netflix to do it. Just do it yourself, DIY, isn't it? So I feel very passionate as you get talking about that. Gemstones, Unconditional, Lessons in Love. So very happy. London.
Yeah, I can see the passion. I mean, you explaining that and going through, I can hear the passion, like it oozes out on the screen. So I'm definitely grateful that you shared that with us, because it is something that we need to hear, but also something that we need to see. It's definitely some type of representations that need to be shown. For my icebreaker, we've spoken offline, spoken in the previous, in your episode of your podcast. I know you travel. So my icebreaker for you is, what, if there has ever been an incident to where you travel somewhere and you said, okay, I'm ready to go home, this is not what I expected?
I've had that, you know. I'm trying to figure out, was it Morocco? I went to Morocco and this place in Agadir. Is it Agadir? I can't remember. Somewhere in Morocco. I was like, I don't think this place is for me. I want to go home now. But when I went to Marrakesh, another part of Morocco, it was fine. So in my head, my regret, I should have went to Marrakesh and stayed in Marrakesh. I would have enjoyed Morocco more than where I was staying, which was like miles and miles away.
Yeah.
Another place, it's a bit of a weird place. It's like Jamaica. I love Jamaica, but going with my parents to Jamaica as an adult, I don't think I can do that again. Unless we're in separate, like if you go to hotel, I go hotel, you stay with family.
And we'll meet up.
We meet up when we meet up. I cannot be traveling, spending all this money just to sit in someone's house.
Oh yeah.
I can't do that for 2-3 weeks, to sit in someone's house for 3 weeks.
Oh yeah.
I can't do that. And my parents would just they'd like doing that. And I'm like, no, I have not spent thousands of pounds to give free clothes, free money, give my life, and sit in the house and sweat for 3 weeks. And I can't go around as a big old woman. Can't be doing that. Yeah. So when people say to me, "Oh, when you go to Jamaica, you're on holidays, amazing." I'm like, it's not the holidays, it's not sandals. I'm not done there. And with lovely, and with family.
It's stressful more than anything.
I'm just sitting there, and everyone gets to do what they want to do, and I don't get to do it. A holiday for me, you know, this is part of like the black tax. Sometimes what you get as a black person, if you come from immigrant household, is just like you don't get to do what you want when you say you go back home. Your time, you don't have your time. It's their time. It's family time. But I do love Jamaica. So but I do love Jamaica at the same time. I hope that helps.
Yep, that was definitely good. I feel like that got the juices flowing going into this. To start this off, I do want to dive into something. I read that, you know, with creating your jewelry brand and just creating a brand for yourself in general, you have to go on a journey of self-discovery to just identify like who you were, channel who you were in order to even be able to go through or even to create what you need to create. What was that journey like? Like, as far as like, was it like a certain duration of that journey? Was it like a certain age you reach, or was it like a certain experience in order for you to find yourself?
It happened. I think over the last kind of 2 years, and I think it's been a very reflective time over the last 2 years. There's so much stuff happened to me over the last 2 years, and a lot of people in the whole world has, you know, you got, when you spend time indoors, with lockdown. And you had lockdown when you was, you know, when COVID first happened. Okay, you have a lot of time to reflect about how you want to spend your life and how you want to be more intentional with your life. And I think after the George Floyd thing happened, but the incident happened, it's just like, I was like, F it, I'm not going to hold my tongue anymore. I'm black, unapologetically black. I don't care, because in England, some people, they think of Hugh Grant and tea and fish and chips and David Beckham and everyone's all polite and we all talk like this and Mary Poppins and do. But the racism is different. It's not everyone's saying N-word, but it's subtle and sometimes it catches you off guard. You're like, oh, was that racism? Yeah, it was. So it's a different type of racism here. And I was just I'm a jeweler. So back to your question, because of my name, Kassandra Lauren Gordon, if people didn't meet me face to face, they thought I was white because it sounds like a white name. Kassandra is a Greek name. So people used to say to me, Kassandra, don't put any black models on your jewelry because people off. Don't say that you're black, don't talk about black things, don't mention anything about race in business meetings or anything. Like, there people were censoring me, or I allowed myself to be censored. And then after 2020, I was like, F it. I do what I want to do. And I know it sounds cliche, and I know you're going to be looking at me and roll your eyes, but it's paid off being myself. I feel like I'm on a TED talk. If you just be yourself, everything will be fine. And it literally happened. And I was like, you don't have to pay, Tony Robbins like £10 million to find this. So that's what kind of happened. And, and now I think at a certain age, I'm like, F it, if this is me, you don't like it, that's fine. But I'm going to talk about black stuff because I love my people. And I'm going to create things, and hopefully the tribe or whoever is going to follow me and like what I do. And it's worked out really, really well.
It's going to reach the audience it needs to reach. You pointed out something very important within that, in the beginning of that, about just your name. I think that we as human beings in general, like a lot of times, like that's our sense of identity, whether it's your entire name or whether it's your last name, like that is like your first instance in finding out who your identity is. But you bring it up like your whole name is. I have gone through the same thing. Like for the most part, I stylized my name Greg Lacey because it's short, but my entire name was Gregory Bernard Lacey III. And so that does not sound like a typical or stereotypical black name. And so like when I fill out job applications, I put in my entire name. When I do my resume, I put my entire name. It's because I don't want to give anyone the upper hand of like trying to stereotype me just based off of what they're reading before they get to meet me. So I think I love examples like that, because it's like we get to dictate whatever image you create of us based off of that face-to-face interaction. Because it's like you may have a stereotype or you may have a type of idea of what type of person I am based off of my name or who you think I am. And I've seen it before. Like I've been in positions where I've seen someone say, oh, we have a new hire coming. Let's try to look up their Instagram. Let's try to look up their Facebook. And because they have their name, like people have preconceived notions. And so I think that name was like really that first sense of identity. And you speaking about, been on this journey of self-discovery, that is another like journey that I have aligned with another journey that I've been down. It's something I'm still going down now, but that was probably my first instance in really identifying that was my entire name and using my entire name and knowing when to use it and when not. It's not that I'm ashamed of my entire name, but using Greg Lacey opposed to Gregory Lacey is easier.
I hear you. And thanks for sharing that, because with self-discovery, I've been doing lots of ancestry tests. I've been doing a bit of genealogy, working with a genealogist to find people about my background. As I mentioned about my parents are Jamaican, but it's really hard because when they got invited to come to Britain, not just my parents, but a lot of people in the Caribbean, that's part of the Commonwealth in Britain. So I don't know if you know about Windrush. Have you heard about that? Windrush?
No.
Okay, cool. So in the 1950s and 60s, so Britain, or people in the Caribbean, especially some places, Jamaica used to be a British colony. Mm-hmm. The British Empire, blah, 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 blah. So that's how, through slave trade and blah, blah, blah. That's how I came to England, right? So in the 1950s, 60s, 70s, they went to the Commonwealth, all the places, the ex-colonies, or the colonies where Britain used to have, and say, come to England after the Second World War, come to Britain and build it up, the motherland. So they invited people like my parents and their grandparents to come over to help build up Britain. And that's why I'm here today. I'm very, very cold and not in the sun. So the reason why I say this, sometimes how my grandparents came over, when there's a lot of displacement. So when my grandparents came over, they left their Jamaican child, and then they sent for them and come over. So there's some, like, my mom and dad, when they were like 11 or whatever, they're like, then they came over to England, and then they're like, oh, I've got new brothers and sisters. Why didn't I, all this type of stuff. So there's a lot of pain. And when I'm trying to ask my parents, like, mom, dad, who's my grandma? Like, what is my grandma's name? What is this? Because I don't know if it's the same in African American culture. I sometimes don't know what my mom's friends or my aunties and uncles' names, their proper names, until their funeral. They don't say their names. So I know them from like an alias, and I call them their alias for their life. And I got the feeling like, who's this? Who is Bernard? Who's this? I don't know who Bernard is. No one told me his name was that until he died, or the birth certificate, you know what I mean? So getting like certain names and talking to a genealogist and understanding dates of birth, and people don't really record stuff, it's really hard to find who I am. And as I said, Kassandra Gordon, I would say it's a white name. It's like, I'm not saying nothing about you, but it's like down the line, Gordon is a Scottish name. So I'm sure there's some Scottish slave owner in there. So I was, and it's weird, it's a weird mentality about name, because when I talk to people from Africa, or people Nigerian and Ghanaian, and they're really proud of their names, and every bit of their names means something, and it shows a lineage to where they're from. So I feel that as an Afro-Caribbean person in Britain, I've lost that. I'm paying a lot of money. I'm trying to figure out who I am, because if I have kids, I want to pass on something to them, because I've been so socialized in England for a place where they don't even want me. So imagine I take their name, I'm fighting racism every day,
and you're passing down
and it's a place where they don't really want me, and I don't really understand my roots. And when I go to Jamaica, they see me as English. So I feel I'm not even Jamaican. So it's just a weird space to be in, and just dealing with that. So and sorry, just one more thing, sorry, because names means a lot. So my partner is Nigerian, and names mean a lot. And he said, if you ever get married, I used to be like, in the most loving way, like white woman feminist. I'm like, no, I'm not going to change my name. I'm not going to do that. I want to keep Kassandra Gordon. It's my name. Spice Girls and all that. But when I thought about it, why would I keep a slave? Like, for my business, I keep it Kassandra Gordon, because it's, established. But why do I want to just, keep this name where it reminds me that I was part of a Scottish slave owner? What do I want my, because I think sometimes with blackness or black history, they always thought, you was a slave. And I was like, there's more to blackness than being a slave. So that's my long tangent. Sorry about that. You told me about names. You're very passionate about
good.
Names,
You definitely pulled out some gems out of there. So I appreciate it. We can go on an hour-long conversation just about the importance of that. Just the dynamics that you even just brought up with you and your partner and changing the name. Like, most African Americans, if we date within African Americans, traditional African American don't have a name that comes from an African country. And so the majority of the time, like, those names that are gained through marriage is normally another slave owner's name. But I also deal with that same type of internal battle. Like, I'm very proud in my last name, just because of I bear the same last name as my grandparent, my grandmother. I bear the same name as my father and my uncles and my cousins and all that same. But with that being said, like, there's a longer history behind that name that we don't really know of. I've been doing my research, just trying to figure out exactly where the name come from and my lineage and things like that. But there's also like a long negative history behind that name, and we don't really know about it. It was just a name that was given to us, and we passed it down the line. But I think that goes into just thinking about just changing narrative of certain things. And you can kind of change a narrative with a name, but there's still history behind it. But I just take pride in it because of the people I share it with. But I also, in the back of my mind, also still have that internal battle, like, okay, well, I share it with these people that I know and love, but at the same time, this name comes from a traumatic history, and I also have to recognize that as well. So I feel like being in that position to where you are contemplating, taking on someone else's name and getting rid of a last name that may have been attached to a slave owner, I feel like that is something that not a lot of people, opportunity a lot of people are afforded. And I feel like it's great. In your jewelry, so I know you mentioned in the beginning just about you being an entrepreneur and owning your jewelry brand, your film, but I also know, because I spoke about your podcast, you host a podcast, amongst many other things. The avenue that you chose after you had your self-discovery was to amplify the voices of Black people, minorities, first generation creatives. What was that aha moment in that self-discovery journey that realized that these are, I know you spoke about how, you just put your things out there and you feel like you have your tribe that attaches to it, but was there an aha moment that said, okay, this is who I should be tailoring my stuff to, and these are the voices I should be championing, and these are the creatives I should be championing?
Yeah, it's around like 2 years ago, summer 2 years ago. I just had enough. You know what it was? It was a black square. On Instagram, when it was like, oh, on a Tuesday, we should all do a black square. And it was Instagram where I seen all these people was like, oh, racism is really bad. And I'm like, you have not talked about this. Or when I've seen black fishing where all these like black, what do you call it? Directories come up. Oh, 10 black jewelers you should know, or 10 black. I'm like, wait, excuse me. I was here all the time. I was mentioning you before George Floyd. Where have you been? And then it makes it like this KFC bucket kind of list, and it kind of like devalues what you do, and it's identity politics. I know I sound a bit of a hypocrite, talk about black, but I'm just like, so I'm just getting annoyed. I was just like, and then, there was this thing where there was this white woman blackfishing on this black UK kind of directory for businesses. I can't remember what it was called, but something to make it up, like Black UK businesses, right? So she was using the hand emoji, she was pretending that she was black, blah, 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 and all that. And I was like, wow, this woman is brave. And she said, oh, I didn't know, I didn't mean any harm. Mm-hmm. And the thing what hurt me the most, it wasn't the white woman blackfishing. It was because there was black people who would because it was growing and it got attraction. The black people on a platform who benefited, who got a bit more followers and liked and shared their products, like their bag or their candle, these black business owners, they were like, oh, she didn't mean any harm, don't worry about it,
because they've been
doing the right thing. And I'm just thinking, what kind of house slave stuff is this?
Yeah.
Sorry. What kind of house slave stuff is stuff? And I just get annoyed. I'm like, I can't. Like our ancestors, your ancestors did not put cornrows in their hair to map out, to communicate how to, maneuver against the slave masters. Yep. I'm not saying that I'm super radical. I'm not saying I'm going to do stuff. But what I'm trying to say is, like, I'm sick of this house slave mentality, and I'm trying not to do these house slave things where I'm trying to, like, oh, because I got one short-term benefit of a few hundred likes from a post on this white woman blackfishing for short-term gain, I'm going to sell out.
Yeah.
So long story short, so I always got a long story, but long story short, I was like, you know what? F you, right? I'm not looking for validation from anybody. If people want to rock with me, they rock with me. I do my own thing. I talk about my own stuff. If black people like it, if white people like it, it's all good. I want to focus on black people, and I don't want to be beholden to a brand, and I don't want to be beholden like, let's just, Nike, why didn't you say it? Because I think sometimes black people are like, why don't, the politician should have done this for us. The politicians don't care. A lot of these brands don't care. You have to do things by yourself and be an example. And as I said, I was a black jeweler, and I just did a lot of diversity and inclusion work in the jewelry industry worldwide, especially in the UK. And I just did an open, this is the thing. I can't explain to you, like, I'm so glad you do this podcast because people don't realize how their voice is so powerful. I don't want to become like pompous, like, oh, my voice is the best voice ever. I'm just a normal person with not a huge following, and I believe in what I believe, right? And that is so powerful. I didn't realize that until 2 years ago. I literally just went on Instagram. I had about 1,000 followers. I haven't got much followers, it's not, and I just said on my business page, like, this is what I feel in the jewelry industry. This is what she did, and I wrote a letter, an open letter, and that open letter was viral in the jewelry and fashion industry, and so much initiatives has come from it. I raised like 30,000 nearly $30,000 or pounds, whatever, for Black jewelers. I did a fund. We did a survey. We did some social research. We got some funding to do. There's so much stuff, and this is just me, a random woman with no influence, like, and just chatting about things what she believes in. So imagine I did that in the jewelry, like, really revolutionized the jewelry world for BIPOC, Black and Indigenous and people of color jewelers. What can I do in my own life and on my podcast?
Yeah.
How can I help Black creatives or brown creatives or just creators in general who navigating through a very tricky space? Because being creative and making a living creative is not easy. Like, okay, people see the Kanye West, the billionaires, but I don't know, you've watched his thing, hasn't you? You watched his
Yeah, I was gonna reserve some time at the end of the episode.
Oh,
so we can talk about
We'll wait. I'll wait.
Because I know we wanted to talk about it last time.
But I'll wait for that. But it's so important. Like, when we get to that stage when people don't believe in you yet, and you believe in yourself, you know, what steps do you need to do to make sure that you're on the right course? So I'll wait for your questions about the Kanye West documentary.
I'm glad you brought up the open letter, because I was actually going to ask you about that as well. I read the article in Forbes where they were talking about that. You are writing an open letter and detailing your frustration about the challenges you face in the industry, and the fact that the fund that you created was able to support 21 plus jewelers, and hoping to create our work with the Black Jewelers Network to build a momentum to further inspire, change, and then all while running your ethical jewelry business. So I feel like that was definitely great. I kind of lost my train of thought as I was reading that, but I think another one of the questions I had was earlier you had brought up, during the self-discovery journey, it was that moment 2 summers ago with the death of George Floyd. How did that affect you immediately? Because I know, like, here in the States, it wasn't like, it didn't, the response that we had, it wasn't exactly immediately. It was like, I feel like a lot of times we see these things and they're shown and we see them on video, and it's not really until like there's a huge outrage, until everyone responds about it, until where we see things like that. Was it the same thing out there?
How can I explain it? So Black people, I can't speak for every Black people, but the general, we're not surprised. We see that, we feel it. We see it because there's certain things happening in the UK. Like, you're more likely to die in police custody if you're Black. Like, in the UK, people have been gunned down by the police in the UK. It's not at the same scale, but it's very commonplace. So, even in like 2016, is it Fidel Castro?
Yeah, Castile, Philando Castile.
Sorry, Castile. I was crying. I couldn't do anything for a whole day. I don't know the person, but the fear, the emotions.
Yeah.
Because we know how it is, even though I live probably 4,000 miles away from you. I don't know how long, where you are. Where are you again in the UK? Georgia? LA. So that with 4,000, 5,000 miles away, but I feel it, right? I lost it. How did I get on to
you were speaking about Philando Castile and how that affected you? You don't want to do anything after you saw that?
Yeah, it's just trauma. Just every time it's on the news, that's why I don't even watch the news. Every time something black trauma, someone dead, Black person dead, or there's a rapper having beef, or this Black girl's shaking her bum. I'm not saying you're not allowed to shake your bum, do what you want. Live your life. I'm not I'm not very conservative. But I'm just sick of black trauma, and I'm sick of like sometimes maybe I'm a bit like a Kanye West or a Candace Owens, a tiny bit. So that it's like I don't believe in that victimhood. I believe like with the little resources what we got. If you're able-bodied, you got hand, you got Google, you have do something. And I was sick of listening to black people like, oh, we can't do anything. Black people, white man always against us. I'm like, I just set a GoFundMe account. I just wrote a letter. It wasn't that hard.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't that hard. And I think sometimes black people, some black people are just waiting for something to do, for people to do things for you.
Yeah.
And I do believe in self-efficacy, meaning like the resilience of doing things for yourself, not waiting on people.
Mm-hmm.
Not waiting for validation from anybody, or just try to move. You know, I didn't know if I was going to raise that money in like 2 weeks. I didn't know. I just put, this is my idea. Let me try. If I fall on my face, I fall on my face. But let me try. And I was showing people in the jewelry industry, because sometimes they'll be like, oh, you know, things take time. But I changed the jewelry industry in less than a month. No, if you want to do it, like when COVID happened, people were doing things quickly. Everyone was, you know, world. So use that same energy and vim when COVID happened. When it comes to black people, and people are like, oh, we need to know more about black stuff. No, you don't. Race. If you're a sociologist or psychologist or in these social studies, race has been overstudied. I don't want to see no more reports. I don't want to see no more, oh, we need to learn more. No, go read a book, go on Google and learn, or talk to your black friend. I am done. There's not much things you need to know. There's no extra, like, you go like Mario level, secret level game to understand how black people live and how you can stop killing people and stop being racist. End of. Like how I have to learn how to be in a white world, like how I have to be careful when I go into a shop so I don't get accused of stealing.
Yep.
Or I had to learn these things, or how
you have to tailor your whole life around them.
I have to tailor my whole life. When I have to deal sometimes with arguments with white women, I have to like hold on. I have to think.
Yep.
So you think, but you never have to do that. You never have to practice. And it's just a skill, right? It's a skill. It's not a science. It's just a skill. You practice it until you get it. You might make mistakes. I've made mistakes. And you just practice. So you see how I get very educated, because I don't understand all this, like, you need to take training and just don't be a horrible person.
It's simple. Like we do it.
I don't know how much training you want. I don't want, we need cultural competency training and stuff like that. No. When your job, the thing what moves people is reputational risk. And if their job is on the line, if there's no consequences to their reputation or their job, people ain't going to do nothing. Simple
as that. And the thing with that is, like, when they bring the compliance to train, is like, that's not genuine. It's like you're forcing someone to do something that they don't want to do. If they are a decent human being, if they are a real human being and they have sympathy or empathy for a certain group of people, they won't need that training. They just need to realize that everyone is equal, no matter how you feel, no matter how you was brought up, no matter what you were taught. If you think a certain way, that's ingrained in you, and you know that is wrong. At a certain point, when you continue to act upon that, that's just ignorance. So like, it's no compliancy training that can take that away. It's like, you are who you are, and your job can force you to do one thing, but once you finish that training, you're back to who you are outside of that training.
There you go.
I think with me and my journey in this podcast, I feel like around that time, during just that terrible summer of 2020, or spring and summer 2020, with all the deaths that happened, I kind of found, like, I started this podcast really like as a hobby, just me want to voice my opinion on certain things. And I think around that time, where all these deaths were happening, where all these injustices were being broadcasted on the widescreen more than it ever had been before, it's when I really started to get a lot of interaction with this podcast. And originally, when I created this podcast, that wasn't a lane that I wanted to go. Like, I wanted to detail the experience of my people, but I also wanted to speak about fun things. Like, I'm a big sports advocate, so I like to talk about basketball. Did used to watch football, tennis, whatever the case may be. I like to speak about those things as well. But also, I'm big into music, so I want to cover the things like pop culture things, hot things that were going on. But during that time, it was like the majority of those episodes, for like a 15 episode span was specifically tailored towards that. And I realized that, okay, this is my fan. This is my fan base, and these are the people that I have to continue to penetrate. One internal battle I had within that was like, okay, well, now that I found my fan base and I'm speaking about these things that details the experience of Black people, I'm only going to be reaching these Black people, and the people that need to hear these experiences are not going to really be hearing these episodes because they don't care. And so I always have this internal battle about different things I speak about in my podcast, because it's like, yes, the people I want to hear are going to hear about it, but those people know what I'm talking about because they go through those same experiences as well. So with you and you going down that same type of lane, the same type of route with all your different lines of businesses, what internal battles do you face or internal conversations you have when you're creating or you're tailoring towards that type of community?
The battles if I have, if I'm being honest with you, if I'm allowed to be authentic, is like, how do I get people to connect to what the content, and how do I promote it? I find that I'm thinking, if I use this, if you know, I just want to be natural, just like how you do in your podcast, to be authentic. It's like, I want people, I really feel passionate about these subjects, and I really want to bring value to people's lives, and I'm thinking like, how do I have to change or adapt the content? I don't want it to be clickbaity, but in this world and age, to survive, you have to be quite a clickbaity person. So I'm thinking, I don't want to be clout. I don't want to be like Fresh and Fit or something like that. You know, I want it to last and have like longevity and contribute to the culture. And just having faith, because I do feel like, you know, I think I'm in what the YouTube is like, small content creators purgatory, but eventually it's gonna blow big.
Yeah.
So it's just having that patience and and consistency. That's it. I'm like, why more people are growing, but I want more people to see it. I want more downloads. But it will happen. It just takes time, isn't it? You can't just expect things to be overnight. So
definitely. Thank you for that. So the last time we talked, I know you wanted to speak about this genius Kanye West documentary. I hadn't watched it yet, and then I watched it shortly after that. I spoke about it in detail on my podcast. My emotions and my reaction to that was up and down. Just me being a Kanye West fan prior to me not really supporting him. I was a big Kanye West fan. So to see like those first 2 episodes and see just like the journey that he went down, it felt like it was refreshing. It was for one, it was refreshing to see him in that element again, but it was also refreshing to see someone so bold and so confident in what they felt like their life meaning was, and be so sure about that to do anything to achieve that. So those first 2 episodes, it felt great. It was like, this is what I wanted. Aside from it being Kanye West, like if I would have seen this from anybody else, I would have walked away from this inspired. And then the 3rd episode is when it brings us up to speed with who he currently is and things he currently been doing. And I kind of went into it, I guess, less emotional than I did the first 2 episodes because of like coming off the high of coming off of just seeing him lose his mom, how that's affected him. I understood that, you know, once they get into this, I'm going to take that into account. But then I just couldn't shake that when I started getting reminded of the reason why I can't support him. So when it goes into the slavery was a choice and goes on to him, all this other type of stuff to where he's pandering towards a certain group of people.
Oh no!
I was like, this is why. And I watched it all the way through, but it just rekindled all those emotions that I had when I was like, okay, I can't support him anymore. How did you feel about it? How did you feel about the documentary?
I don't know if you're gonna talk to me. I don't know. Okay, so let's go back to what you said about slave. Okay, what did you think of? All right, what? My heart is saying go back to slavery is a choice. Why do you think that was offensive to you, or you don't like it?
I didn't like it because I felt like that wasn't the only thing he said at that time. He was saying a lot of things at the time, not even just like that statement in general isn't like what really hurt me. It was like he was going to different places saying very disparaging things towards Black people for a certain group of people. he was saying that he said that what exactly did he say about Harriet? He said something about Harriet Tubman that I don't remember at the moment. And then after that, the last thing, so the slavery was a choice with TMZ. He said the thing about Harriet Tubman, I think it was at TMZ or it could have been somewhere else. And then he went to Howard University, and he was reiterating that slavery was a choice, but he was saying it something else more disparaging. I don't remember everything that he was saying during that time, but I remember why he was going through. It was like, okay, I'm just, if this is what he's doing, then that's fine. And if you believe that way, everybody has their beliefs, but I'm just not going to support it. The reason why I stepped away from just supporting him is because if you feel that way, you feel that way. But I felt like he was sharing these messages to pander towards a certain group of people who don't give a damn about him. If he was authentic in how he felt about that, then that's him. And then I deal with that how I deal with it. But because, and I could be wrong, but because in that moment, he was building up to go support the idiot number 45, who was our president a couple of years ago, because he was tailoring towards that group of people, and he was within those groups, and then him aligning with Candace Owens and all this other type of stuff he had going around that time. I felt like he was sharing those messages just to pander towards those people, to appease those people. And at that point, like we call it in America, we call it shucking and jiving. And I felt like he was shucking and jiving for people who don't care about him.
I hear you. I hear you. Oh gosh, we're going to politics now. Oh God, I feel you don't gonna like me now. Oh gosh, okay. Oh cool. Well, but you did ask me. Number one, yes, I agree to a certain extent to what you're saying. I think Kanye West, and remember, I'm not a Kim Kardashian lover. I'm not one of these. I want to say this. I'm not one of these people who ride hard for celebrities. I'm not that person.
Yeah.
If there was a line of Beyonce, oh, you know, there's a line of a concert, I'm not waiting in the queue for that long. Or I'm not waiting in the queue. I'm not doing no campsite. I'm not following people. I'm not that person. However, just want to put that out there. I'm not so obsessed with celebrity culture or treat them like an idol or a god. But
yeah,
I feel sometimes with Kanye, he doesn't explain himself well. He's misunderstood. He does. I agree. Kanye knows how to get clout, and he knows how to create buzz, especially when it leads up to a project or what he's doing. And he'll do it at any means necessary, even at the expense of throwing Black people and Black women underneath the bus. Back to slavery is a choice. I see what he was saying, but if he said it in a different way, I got the sentiment. He was just trying to say not to be victimhood to the narrative, like the white man this and the white man that. That's what I felt what he was trying to say. That's what I felt. So I personally wasn't upset about that per se, but I do agree with the sentiment that he would just throw Black women underneath the bus to sell his records or pander or to get deals or whatever, and be strategic in that. But then I feel that Black people don't hold him accountable enough, because remember that woman, that singer, Crystal, oh God, her name, Krista, the woman who sang at the All Great. Yeah, she just sang a song for a president. If it's democracy, and the Americans love democracy, and that's the thing what you go wars for whatever reason, the democracy says that you voted for that president, and that was the majority. So why can't she, like for other presidents, you sing the song and she can roll and get her check and leave? Exactly. What's wrong? But people ruin her career as a Black woman for singing a song. With Kodak Black, Nick Cannon, Steve Harvey, the list goes on, can sit, have cigars with Donald Trump, and no one says anything and no one's getting cancelled. But when this woman with her profession to sing a song like any other person at any inauguration, you ruin her career.
She got banned.
But you ruin her career. Yeah. So I don't.
I mean, I think one, we know that America is misogynistic.
Back to lovely Kanye West. Let me get back on get on point.
I think we know America is misogynistic, which is why I think that incident happened. Like for me personally, support whoever you want to support. I don't really care too much about the presidents because I feel like they're all liars. I feel like the majority
Thank
of
you.
them don't really care about me, and so I don't care about them either. So if someone supports a certain president, then so be it. But if a president is sharing a certain type of views or values, and then you're aligning with that, then that's where I cross the line. So I definitely think that America does not hold Kanye West accountable, and I spoke about that as well, because he was going all out and doing all these things, and then it was like it got to a point to where he had to step away, and he was just absent. Like we didn't hear anything about Kanye West. He wasn't doing anything. He went on that long tangent of all these interviews and saying all these things, and then he went away for a couple of months, and then he came back, and he was a born again Christian, and then it was like all these black people, well, here in America at least, all these black people was like, oh, we have Kanye West, the Christian Kanye West. Kanye West is releasing a Christian album, and everyone ran to listen to the album. Everyone was big Kanye West fan again. I was like, wait, did y'all just forget about what he was doing a couple months ago? So they definitely don't hold that man accountable.
I think imagine like the thing what I got, like, and it's, you know, I'm not against interracial marriages. I'm not, you know, I'm really not against, like, everyone should love who they want to love, right?
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it's like you go to the family, you know, it's weird because when look at me, like his mom's like black this, and da 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 da, and then you go to marry a white woman who's the most anti-black family I ever known. So I'm just like, that's on you, bruv. That's on you. Exactly. So anything what you say about Kim Kardashian and you know how the Kardashians roll before you married them. So, you know, don't be, you know, going online and complaining about, you know, you don't see your kids and this and you want your daughter to remember blackness. You chose to go out to go with this to go with this family who have notoriously have bullied and taken cultures and, you know, taking people's culture and exploiting black culture. Yes. And then you're worried about your daughter living as a, so that's on you. I have no sympathy for you. Nope.
What did you expect? They have a documented history of misappropriating our culture, and then so you thought that you were going to be the lucky one to go in there and change the course. I mean, I understand because you've done a lot in your life, you've done a lot in your career, but there's certain things you just can't change. And unfortunately, you found out the hard way that this was one of those things that you can't change.
You're a black man. You're probably a billionaire, but you're still a black man, you know. But what I took away from the documentary, positive thing, is about the hustle, man. The guy, like Jay-Z, is like here.
Yeah.
And Jay-Z's like, and David Dash is here.
Yep.
And they're like, the guy hustled. The guy was singing his heart out in like, it was going to be great. The guy was hustling, doing the MTV, going in the offices in MTV when it was shot to make his movie is Through the Wire. He had an accident and he wrapped when it was paint, like those types of things I admire. And I'm just like, am I hustling enough? I don't think I'm hustling. I can't complain. When I saw that, when I seen who he was doing, I thought, nah, I had to look at my life choices. I was like, Kanye, you're the don for that. And
it's inspirational. It's very inspirational.
Hustle and the belief, and you know, whether he's right or wrong. Sometimes, you know, there's argument you separate the artist and the man or the humans are so complex, isn't it? So as I get older, if you ask me as a 20-year-old or 15-year-old, I'd be like, bun Kanye, can't be bothered with Kanye, can't, no, bad man. But as I get older, you know, we're mixed with good and bad, you know, or, you know, there's not a good or a bad person, so complex. So I can appreciate his not so great qualities, you know, as a human being. You know, sometimes we look at celebrities, there should be everything and they're not. They're just human beings that have flaws. They marry wrong people have divorces, you know. It is what it is. So I do find it inspirational, but such a problematic individual which just needs his mom basically. But I'm not giving him a pass because a lot of people moms die too,
and they don't go crazy
and
like
they don't do stupid things, you know. But you can see how his mom, listen, if I had Kanye's mom, nothing can't stop me, seriously, because
his biggest fan.
The woman knew his songs. It's not like, I know his. She knew word for. She was rapping with him. I was like,
the best hype man. Like, what better hype man can you have other than your mother, the person who brought you into this world, singing your songs with you? It don't get no better than that. And that's in any lane, any industry, whether it's music, whether it's art, whether it's teaching, whatever the case may be. Like, to have someone to know your work, something you put your blood, sweat, and tears in, and know that verbatim, it's like, it's mind blowing. It was mind blowing to see that.
And it was good for the documentary people because they didn't know they had like I think they sold that footage for 30 million. I was like, it goes up in value. So that's when you start documenting now. That's when you start documenting each week. I was like, I need to document what I'm doing because in 5 years' time, you know, who knows? You know,
inflation, around, especially with inflation.
It goes up. It goes up. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, Kassandra, thank you for being a guest on the Speak My Piece podcast. This is definitely a great continuance of a conversation that we've had. Before we get out of here, did I miss anything that you may want to cover or any topics that we didn't touch upon?
As a jeweler, yes, I have my commercial side, but I do have my community or social engaged practice side. So my exhibition is a public art exhibition in London, looking at the relationship between cancer and jewelry. So what we did, I collaborated with a leading cancer researcher who looks at cancer cells, looking at cutting edge technology, using staining techniques to stain, and the stains and different things. It helps to look at the characteristics of the cells, will help to identify what's the best treatment for cancer. We showed people who was affected by cancer, going through treatment or indirectly affected by cancer, and they designed jewelry. And when they designed their jewelry, I made it for them and put them in exhibition. We've got a documentary, we've got photos, we've got the jewelry there, seeing jewelry as public art, because sometimes jewelry is a piece of art or a manifestation of emotion and about your personality, and it's a great conversation starter. And looking at jewelry as a conversation tool and just a pretty thing or a blingy thing. So yeah, I'm very excited about having a socially engaged fine art practice where engaging the community through the love and through the medium of jewelry. So that is me, but just connect, isn't it? Connect with me on social media and stuff. And
you want to give a shout out, or you want to give a shout out to your handles or where they can find you at?
Sure, it'll be in the lovely show notes, but KLG Jewelry. Jewelry is the British spelling. JEW, if I can spell ELLERY. I think I say it out loud. Anyway, it's the British spelling of jewelry, not the American spelling of jewelry. KLG Jewelry. And Black Creative Handbook. That's the podcast. Type it in, you know, Spotify, Apple, Instagram, whatever. My website is www.kljewelry.com. Yeah, that is me. I'm really happy. Thank you for allowing me to talk about Kanye West. I was saving myself to talk about Kanye West for ages with you, so I'm so happy. So thank you so much. I really
no problem. I usually end this episode with a what to watch, but we don't have a what to watch this week. We're going to label this one as a keep an eye out, as Gemstones is going into the Independent Film Festival. Please keep an eye out for that and watch it when it becomes available. So our what to watch, but really keep an eye out for is Gemstones. That's the correct title, right? Gemstones?
Gemstones, Unconditional, okay. Lessons in love.
So keep an eye out for that. That's the Speak My Piece podcast for this week. I'm out.